Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna be exploring and going through the history and stuff of all the coins that I have. Take a quick look. Oldest one so far, 1905 Indian head penny. And the newest one I have is this 2015 peso coin. And I even have a proof dime that was actually given to me by my grandpa. And Mercury dime, that's the only one I have that looks like that. It's actually pretty cool. And then a Susan B. Anthony dollar. I also have an Eisenhower dollar. And then the new presidential dollars that look like gold. I got the John Adams one. Okay, let's get started. To start, the 1976 Eisenhower dollar, also known as the Centennial Eisenhower dollar. No 1975 dollar coins of this exist because the US decided to make more of the 1976 ones. 242,560,454 were minted, and I happen to have one, so that's cool. And they're worth between face value, $1, all the way up to almost $21,000, which is kind of insane. It's kind of amazing stuff. 2010 S dime. It's the S because it was made from San Francisco, and during that year, San Francisco only made the proof dimes. They are proof coins that come in sets and are actually not meant for circulation. That's why the one I have doesn't have the mirror finish that regulars would have. Because it's a proof coin, only 1.1 million were made. And each individual one was put in a set with all the other coins. And some of them were made in 90% silver. I do not have one of those. And they're worth between face value and $100 just by themselves. They're worth more if they're in the set and not circulated to where they have the mirror finish. 1905 Indian head penny. Almost 81 million were minted, but 80,717,011 were minted. Only a little over 2,000 were proof struck, so if a proof struck one exists, it's really rare. So these were made of 95% copper and 5% tin. And if they are circulated, they're worth between 50 cents. They're worth 50 cents, and if it's in pristine condition, it's almost $20,000. That's the 19,975 is the most one has ever sold for. And the designer was criticized for the design because apparently his daughter took a Indian headdress and put it on herself, so that's what he made the front of it be like. And I guess the US didn't like that. The 1927 Buffalo nickel. Oh yeah, and also these pictures that I'm showing aren't actually mine. It's just the ones that looked the best, that would show the front and the back of the coin. Okay. These are worth between $1 to almost $5,000, $4,800, which I think is kind of crazy for just something that was worth 5 cents. And 45,581,000 were minted in total. And they're actually made of mostly copper, 75% of it. It's not fully nickel, which I don't know where the name comes from. Probably just because it has nickel in it, which is 25% of it is nickel. So, yeah. 44 D wheat penny. These are called wheat pennies because because of the wheat stalks on the back. On the 1 cent, on the left and the right, there's wheat stalks. 430,578,000 were made just of the D Mint mark. So the Denver Mint made almost 431 million, which is $431,000. Worth between 50 cents and $114,000 if it's in pristine condition and really really kept and taken care of and stuff. So 50 cents is if it's just in circulated condition, almost 115,000 if it's like in pristine. That's the most one has ever sold for. The 2015 20 pesos coin. This coin is special for the 100th anniversary of the aviation branch in Mexico. Like how we have the military and like the military, the army, the navy, they had the aviation branch made in 1915. It is the 200th anniversary for the death of Jose Maria Morelos y Pavón. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. They're worth between $1 because 20 pesos in American USD is only like $1.15, and they are worth between $1 and $70. I don't know how it could be worth that much. Probably if it's like in mint condition, probably. 1955 D wheat penny. Just like the last one, it's called a wheat penny because of the wheat stalks and the design on the back. It's worth between 5 cents circulated and $8,400 uncirculated, like in pristine. These are also made of 95% copper and 5% tin, and 562,840,000 of these were minted just by themselves, which is kind of crazy. That's like $562,000. 1951 D wheat penny. 625,355,000 of these were minted, which is about like $625,000. That's pretty crazy. Worth between 10 cents and $8,100. 10 cents for just circulated regular, and $8,100 for like pristine and like mint condition. These were also made of 95% copper and 5% tin. So that's why they like had to be worth so much, because copper wasn't worth that much back then. And Denver, the D mint mark, made the most pennies that year. So yeah. 1935 mercury dime. Not actually made of mercury, but silver. It was made of 90% silver. It was called the mercury dime because the woman on the front was mistaken for, I think, like the god Mercury or something. I don't fully remember. 85,147,000 of these were minted in total, and the one I have is actually like stamped on the top, so it could be like a necklace or something, which I think is kind of cool. And these are worth between $2.25 just for like the melt value of it. Like if you were to just melt it down, you get that for the silver, and then up to $3,000 or more because they're like really old and probably really wanted by collectors and stuff. The 1946 Denver wheat penny. These are also made of 95% copper and 5% tin. These are worth between 20 cents and $100. I guess they're not really that wanted. Exactly 315 million of these were minted, so that's $315,000. You just gotta remove the last like 3 zeros and you'll get it. A lot of the mint marks of this actually had to be repunched by hand. That's why if you go like under a microscope or like a magnifying glass, there'll be like a ghost D, like because they had to get repunched by hand by the factory workers. The 1943 steel wheat penny. These were made of steel during this time with a zinc coating, so the U.S. could use the copper for World War II, like the World War II bullet casings and stuff. Less than 25 normal pennies were made by accident, and they are worth thousands to tens of thousands to even hundreds of thousands because of one factory incident. I don't even think it's less than 25. I think it's like 20. And they were actually made of regular copper or bronze. And then 684,000 no, 684,628,670 were minted, Philadelphia being the major producer during this year. The 1939 wheat penny. These were, again, also made of 95% copper, worth between a quarter and $1,000, and 316,044,000 of these were minted. And these are actually worth more in melt value than as the coin itself. So if you were to melt this down, you would get about, like, I don't think 30 cents of copper or something. I don't remember. Well, no. It would be worth than the coin, so you'd get like 3 cents. 1937 Buffalo nickel. Worth between 50 cents and $300+. I don't know how much they could be. These were made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. There is actually a famous error where the buffalo has 3 legs, not 4, because a factory worker named Mr. Young made a mistake of not, like, putting one of the planchets, that's like an uncut piece of metal to make the coins. He forgot to put one, and the dies, the things that actually make the designs, smacked against each other. So he filed it down to where it looked better, but the buffalo on the back was missing one of its legs. The Indian on the front is made of 3 different people, not just one, and this is kind of sometimes referred to as the Frankenstein Indian. And almost 103 million of these were made. So that's a lot. Getting to the end here, the 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar. These are worth between just face value and $150. 288,015,744 of these were minted. This was actually the first ever coin to feature a real woman instead of a god, like how the Mercury dime had people thought it was a Mercury god, but it was a different one. And there's 11 ridges on the inside to represent the Apollo 11 mission. That's why the eagle on the back is like stepping on the moon also. 1941 nickel. Still 75% copper and 25% nickel. 203,265,000 were minted from Philadelphia. That's where they have no mint mark. This design was actually originally made for a competition to replace the Buffalo nickel design. So that's why there's Jefferson and the Monticello. That's what his house was. And these are worth between 10 cents to $5,000, which is a lot, actually. 1950 silver dime. Worth between $5.50, which is just the melt value. I don't know how this one is worth more than the Mercury dime, because they're the same size, but it's apparently worth more, to over $315. Over 120 million of these were minted. I got a little lazy because I was starting to do this late at night and I was getting tired. The designer was accused of being a communist. I think it was like Joseph Stalin. That's what the U.S. thought the JS initials stand for, but it's not. And these are made of 90% silver and 10% copper. The 2007 presidential dollar coin, John Adams, made of 77% copper and 3 other metals, one of them being magnesium or manganese or something. Worth more than 224 million were minted, worth between $1 face value to $130 or more. This isn't actually gold, but the metals give it that gold color. Like, all the metals, like, mixed together and melted give it that gold color. I think it's a manganese that does that. Thank you so much for watching my video. This took me, like, so long to make. It took me, like, multiple days, because slideshows are not easy to do on the phone, especially in Canva, which is what I'm using right now. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribed and liked the video. That would help me out so much. I am so close to 10,000 subscribers, and I have something big planned for 10,000 subscribers. And also, remember to hit that bell if you do subscribe or like, so you never miss any of my new videos. Alright guys, see ya.